Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk a little bit today about the cost of living in Costa Rica versus what some of us are accustomed to in our home countries. Although Costa Rica is a small country, it actually varies a lot by region in what you can expect to pay on a daily basis and for very similar items. And that's to account for things like the cost of transporting those items to those locations. If you're near an urban center, there are things that cost less than if you're on the coast. Overall, our cost of living went down by about 60 to 65% when we moved from Southern California to Costa Rica. I'm going to get into more specifics, but those were a material change in what our daily spending was, or monthly spending. And most importantly for me, we were not experiencing lack. In fact, the exact opposite. We were experiencing an even better quality of life for a lower cost of living. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that are lower cost of living here in Costa Rica. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is any sort of support that you might need as it relates to family, like human support, so labor. If you're looking for caregivers for your home, or someone to help prepare meals in your house, or to take care of your garden, professional services, all of the, I would say, human-focused service and support that you need here is far less expensive than in the United States. And that could range anything from attorneys and accountants to designers, to help at home, the kinds of things that I've mentioned. Food. There's a farmer's market here that is about the size of 2 or 3 football fields every week. And in this region, we're in an agricultural valley. So you have a number of multi-generational farmers that have been here, and just more healthy produce and fruits and live food than you can imagine. And since there's so many people producing it, it drives the cost down. Activities is another area, whether it's after-school activities for kids or for adults. All of that tends to be less expensive here than in the United States. And I'll give you an example. My daughter loves to do aerial silks now. And so 3 times a week, she goes for an hour-long aerial silks class with a bunch of the other girls. And I pay about $35 a month for that. 12 classes, so for an average of about $3 or $4 a class. Air travel within the country is less expensive. But one area that is not is cars. And this will be an area of sticker shock for many people, particularly coming from the United States. Cars are expensive here. And that is because the import duties for vehicles are 60 to 80%. So you will see cars retain their value for a very long time because of it, but it's also a higher initial upfront cost. I think I've done a separate video on what cars to buy, just because you want to make sure you get cars here that can be repaired here in case they do break down. So cars is definitely an area where you tend to pay more. I often get asked a question about utilities, whether it's electric and water or internet or these types of things. All of those expenses are materially lower than the United States. Our electric bill is always under $100. Our water bill here is usually under, $10. And internet is usually $50 or less for really high-speed fiber optic internet. So you don't wind up paying that much for those types of things. Additionally, like rental properties in our area are materially lower, not only than the United States, but around from the coast as well. I was sharing earlier that region by region, this varies. And in our region, housing and land tends to be less expensive than other areas of Costa Rica, although that's starting to shift as more and more people discover Perez Zeledon and all the wonders that it has to offer. Related to, quality of life and cost of living is the accessibility of goods that you're used to. I get asked, can you get Amazon here? And then the short answer is yes, you can. It will take a little bit longer. It might take a week and a half or so to get your package, and you will have to pay for that extra transportation and the import duties for those products. But you can order. It's very simple. You have a U.S. address, and it gets freight forwarded right here to Perez Zeledon. But what I've noticed personally for myself is, since a lot of these things aren't accessible in 2 days or same day the way it is in the United States, you just find yourself ordering less and less of them. And over time, I might go a few months without ordering anything from Amazon and find that all my needs are met here. It reminds me a little bit of when I was younger and where I grew up, where there wasn't just these one-stop shops that you could go to, whether it's the internet or big box retailers. You had to know the area that you lived in. And that has another wonderful thing about that you're supporting local businesses and small business owners here in Costa Rica. And so I actually prefer if you can find those products locally here, because it supports the community. Many of our future residents are thinking about what income level they would need to be comfortable here for a family of four. And that depends on a lot of different factors. One that's working in your favor is that the lower cost of living of this region of Costa Rica. And so that helps out a lot. I think, and people's preferences, how much are they traveling, or how much are they eating home versus eating out. But as a general rule, I would say anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 a month, depending on your preferences, and you can be very comfortable and happy here. And the nice thing, at least for United States residents, the first $110,000 of your income is tax-free if you live in Costa Rica. And if you're married, the first $220,000 is tax-free if you live in Costa Rica. So there are some surprisingly really nice tax benefits for those who are moving here from the United States. I'm not so sure about Europe, how that translates, but for the United States, it works out really nice. I also find that your lifestyle can shift here quite dramatically when you get here. You find that you live with less, but not because it's your intention. It's just because you're happy with less. I know when we first moved here, it was actually during COVID, so we were hardly spending any money. It was probably, $2,000 a month for us to live here, and maybe even less. And I'd say now our lifestyle's adjusted a little bit. So many people work online now and are able to generate income from their home countries. That money that you earn goes so much further here in Costa Rica. So you could end up earning the same amount of money and have an enhanced quality of life. And if you factor in the tax benefits as well, that just extends that concept even further. One of the areas of the community that really excites me is our co-working studio, because I'm an entrepreneur. I really value and enjoy being around other entrepreneurs and have often worked from a co-working facility in the United States. The facility that we have here is far less expensive for those to occupy. I remember when I worked out of a co-working facility in the U.S., I might pay $1,500 or even $2,000 a month. And here, the cost for that will be dramatically lower, and you'll still be surrounded by some amazing people with incredible talents that they're using in the world in business. Healthcare is another area that people are curious about. And fortunately, since we're near an urban center, there's actually 2 hospitals, a private and a public one, here in San Isidro. And I've been there. We've actually had 2 children, not at the same time, at separate times, break their arms. And we had to take them to the private hospital. And just to give you a concept of what that experience is like, we were in and out in about 3 to 3.5 hours with a cast and a $150 bill. I know that's very different from people's experience in the United States, But it's not just for children's care either. You can go in and get an ultrasound just by walking in the door there, and that'll cost you about $35. Coming from the United States, our concept of healthcare is very distorted. Here, it's very accessible, and in terms of getting appointments and things that you need, and also accessible in terms of cost. It's a refreshing change from the U.S. What I also appreciate about the private hospital here is that I can go in there without speaking very good Spanish and get the care that I need. They speak English there. They're using, advanced equipment, and that feels really supportive to me to know that even in an emergency, I will be able to communicate and get the care for whether it's myself or for my child. I've spoken about this before, but one of the options that becomes available when you have a materially lower cost of living while maintaining the income that you have is you create optionality. You can decide if maybe your spouse can stay home with and be more focused on family, or you can decide yourself whether you can hire support or an assistant, which means you may have to work less. With the extra disposable income, you may find that you travel more as a family in your vacation times. It's certainly accessible to go to Colombia and South America and the rest of Central America very easily from here. And so we've found that those trips can be really rewarding and lower cost as well. So it's what you get is choice. And with that choice, you get the balance that you want in your work-family ecosystem. Thanks for joining me today. I hope this video was helpful in illuminating what you can expect in cost of living here in Costa Rica. Our sales team is here to help as well. They obviously live here. They can even get more detailed and answer questions for you on what you can expect and what your experience will be like in Perez Zeledon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.